My name is Lucas, and this is chapter 15 of the Forbidden Forest of Harry Potter. Things could have been worse. Filch took them down to Professor McGonagall's study on the first floor, where they had sat and waited without saying a word to each other. Hermione was trembling. Excuses, alibis, and wild cover-up stories chased each other around Harry's brain, each more feeble than the last. Harry couldn't see how they were going to get out of trouble this time. They were concerned. How could they have that Professor McGonagall would accept that they're being out of bed and creeping around the school in the dead of night, let alone being up for the tallest astronomy tower, which is out of bounds except for classes at Norbert and the invisibility cloak, and they might as well be parking their bags already. And Harry thought that things could have been worse. He was wrong. When Professor McGonagall appeared, she was leading Neville. Harry! Neville burst out the moment he saw the other two. I was trying to find you two to warn you. I heard Malfoy saying he was going to catch you. And if you had a drag... Harry shook his head violently to shut up Neville, but Professor McGonagall had seen. She looked more likely to breathe fire than Norbert, as she towered over the three of them. I would never believed it in the three of you. Mr. Filch says you were up in the astronomy tower. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. Explain yourselves. And it was the first time Hermione had ever failed to answer a teacher's question. She was staring at her slippers that, as a statue. I think I've got an idea for what's going on, said Professor McGonagall. It doesn't take a genius to work out. You fed Draco Malfoy some cock and bull story about a dragon trying to get him out of bed into trouble. I caught him. Suppose you think that's funny that Longbottom here heard the story and believed it too. Harry caught Neville's eyes and tried to tell him what the words this wasn't true, because Neville was looking stunned to hurt poor blundering Neville. Harry knew what it must have cost him to try and feel it out in the dark. To warn them, I'm disgusted, said Professor McGonagall. 4 students out of bed in one night? I've never heard of such a thing before. You, Miss Granger, I thought you had more sense. As for you, Mr. Potter, I thought Gryffindor meant more to you than this. All 3 of you will receive detention. Yes, you too, Mr. Longbottom. Nothing gives you the right to walk around school, especially these days. It's very dangerous. And 50 points will be taken from Gryffindor. Harry gasped. They would lose the lead he'd won in the last Quidditch match. 50 points each, said Professor McGonagall, breathing heavily, and there were a long, pointed noise. Professor, please, you can't. Don't tell me what I can't do now, Potter. Now get back in bed. All of you. I've never been more ashamed of Gryffindor students. 150 points lost. That put Gryffindor in last place in one night. They ruined any chance for winning the House Cup. Harry felt as the bottom had dropped out of his stomach. How could they ever make up for this? Harry didn't sleep at all that night. Harry could hear Neville sobbing into his pillow for what seemed like hours. Harry couldn't think of anything to say to comfort him. He knew Neville, like himself, was dreading the dawn. What would happen when the rest of Gryffindor found out what they've done? At first, Gryffindor passing the giant hourglass that recorded the house points, and the next day they thought there'd been a mistake. How could they have suddenly 130 points fewer than yesterday? And then the story started to spread. Harry Potter, the famous Harry Potter of Quidditch matches, had lost them all those points, and a couple other for stupid first years. From being one of the most popular and admired people in the school, Harry was suddenly the most hated. Even the Raven and Hufflepuff somehow turned to hate him, because everyone had been longing to see Slytherin lose the House Cup everywhere. Harry pointed and didn't even lower their voices as they insulted him. Slytherins, on the other hand, clapped as they walked past him, whistling and cheering. Thanks, Potter. We owe you one. Only Ron stood by him. They'll all forget about this in a few weeks. Fred and George have lost loads of points in the time they've been here. People still like them. They've never lost 150 points in one go, so have they? Harry said miserably. Well, no, but almost. It was a bit late to repair the damage, but Harry swore to himself not to meddle in things that weren't in his business. From now on, he had it with sneaking around spying. He felt so ashamed of himself that when he went to Wood and offered to resign the Quidditch team, resign, Wood thundered. What good will that do? How much going to get any points back if we can't win at Quidditch? But even Quidditch has lost its fun. The rest of the team wouldn't speak to Harry during practice. If they had to speak to him, they'd call him Seeker. Hermione and Neville were suffering too. They didn't have it as bad as the time, but Harry, they weren't well as known, but nobody would speak to them either. Hermione had stopped drawing attention to herself in class, but keeping her head down and working in silence. Harry almost glad that the exams weren't far away, for the studying to keep off his mind of the Messiah. He, Ron, and Hermione kept themselves working late at night into trying to remember the ingredients of complicated potions. Learn into the charms. And spells by heart, but memorize dates of magical discoveries and goblin rebellions. Then about a week before the exams were due to start, Harry's new resolution not to interfere in anything that concerned him. He was put to an unexpected test. Walking back from the library on his own one afternoon, he heard somebody whimpering from the classroom up ahead, and he drew closer. It was Quirrell's. No, not again, please. It sounded though someone was threatening him. Harry moved closer. Oh, all right, man. He heard Quirrell sob over and over again. The next second, Quirrell came hurrying out of the classroom, straight in his turban, and he was pale and looked like he was about to cry. He strode out of sight. Harry didn't think about Quirrell had ever noticed him. He waited till Quirrell's footsteps had disappeared and peered inside the classroom. It was empty, but the door stood ajar at the other end. Harry was halfway through toward before he remembered what he had promised himself about not meddling. All the same, he'd have gambled 12 sorcerer's stones that Snape had just left the room. That's why Harry had just heard Snape would be walking again in step of his step. Quirrell had seemed to have given in at last. Harry went back to the library, and Hermione was testing Ron on astronomy. Harry told them what he'd learned. Snape's done it then, said Ron. If Quirrell's told him now, break the anti-force spell. He's fluffy though. They're still fluffy though, said Hermione. Maybe Snape's found a way to get past them without asking Hagrid. He said, Ron looking up the thousands of books surrounding them. I bet there's a book somewhere telling how to get past the three-headed dog. So what do we do, Harry? The light of adventure was killing against Ron's eyes, but Hermione answered before Harry could go to Dumbledore. That's what he had done ages ago, guys. If we're anything to ourselves, we'll be thrown out for sure. But I've got no proof, said Harry. They're too scared to back us up. Snape's only got to say he doesn't know the troll got up in Halloween and that there was nowhere near the 3rd floor. They'll believe him or not. He's not exactly a secret. We hate him. Dumbledore? Think we made it up to get him sacked. Filch? Wouldn't help. Filch wouldn't help us if his life depended on it. He's too friendly with Snape, and most students get thrown out. Or better, he'll think of, and don't forget, we're supposed to not know the Stoner Fluffy. I'll take up a lot of explaining with him. Everyone looked convinced that, but Ron didn't. We just do a bit of poking around. No, said Ron flatly. Done enough poking around. He pulled a map of Jupiter toward him to lean the names of its moons. The following morning, notes were delivered to Harry, Hermione, and Neville at the breakfast table. They were all the same. Your detention will be placed at 11 o'clock tonight. Meet Mr. Filch at the entrance. Oh, sorry. Harry had forgotten all about they still had detention to do with the farrier over the points they lost. Half expected Hermione to complain, but she didn't. But she didn't say a word, to be honest. Like Harry, she had felt the deserved what they had got. At 11 o'clock that night, they said goodbye to Ron, and then common room, and went down to the entrance hall, and Neville was in with Neville. Filch was already there, and so was Malfoy. Harry had also forgotten that Malfoy had a detention too. "Follow me," said Filch, lighting a lamp and leading them outside. "I'll bet you'll think twice about breaking a school rule, won't you?" he said, leering at them. "Oh yes, hard work and pain are the best teachers. Pain is the best teacher, if you ask me. It's just a pity that let the old punishments die out. Hang by your wrists from the ceiling for a few days. I've got chains still in my offices. Keep them well oiled because they're never needed. Right off, here we go. And don't think of running off now. It'll be worse for you if you do." They marched toward the dark grounds. Neville kept sniffing. Harry wondered what their punishment was going to be. It must be something really horrible. Mr. Filch wouldn't have sounded so delighted to give it to them. The moon was bright, but clouds scudded across it, kept throwing them into the darkness ahead. Harry could see the lighted windows of Hagrid's hut, but they heard a distant shout. "Is that you, Filch? Hurry up! I want to get it started." Harry's heart rose, and if they were going to be working with Hagrid, if they wouldn't be so bad. He relieved to must have showed it in his face, because Filch, I suppose you think you'll be enjoying yourself with that oath? Well, think again, boy. It's not onto the forest you're going, and I'm much mistaken if you'll come out in one piece." At this, Neville let out a little moan, and Malfoy stopped dead in his tracks. "Forest? Forest?" he repeated. He didn't sound quite as cool as usual, but you can't go through the night. There's all sorts of things there. Werewolves, I've heard. Vampires. Neville clutched the sleeve of Harry's robe, made a choking noise. "What's your problem?" Dang it, my phone fell again. Sorry. That's your problem, isn't it?" said Filch, his voice cracking with glee. "Should have thought them werewolves before you got in trouble, shouldn't you?" Hagrid came striding toward them out of the dark, Fang at his heel. He was carrying a large crossbow and a quiver of arrows hung over his shoulder. "About time. I've been waiting for half an hour already. Right, Harry, Hermione?" "Shouldn't be too friendly to them, Hagrid," said Filch coldly. This is why you're late, is it?" said Hagrid, frowning at Filch and lecturing them. "It's not your place to do that. You've done that your bit. Take it from here." "I'll be back at dawn," said Filch. That's what left them. He asked nastily and started back toward the castle, his lamp bobbing away in the darkness. Malfoy now turned to Hagrid. "No, I'm not going into that forest," he said. Harry was pleased to hear the note of his panic of the voice. Wait. "Yeah, if you want to stay at Hogwarts," said Hagrid freely. "You've done the wrong, and now you got to pay for it. But this servant stuff, it's not for students to do. I thought we'd be copying lines. If my father knew what I was doing, he'd tell you. That's how it is at Hogwarts," Hagrid growled. "Copying lines, what's good that anymore? You'll do somewhat useful, or you'll get out. Your father rather expelled than get back in the castle. And pack. Go on." Malfoy didn't move. He looked at Hagrid fiercely, but then dropped his gaze. "Right then," said Hagrid. He listened carefully, because it's dangerous what we're going to do tonight, and I don't want no one taking no risk. Follow me over here in a moment." He led them to the very edge of the forest, holding his lamp up. He pointed at down narrow, winding earth track that disappeared into the thick black trees. A light breeze lifted in their hair as they looked into the forest. "Look there," said Hagrid. "That stuff shining on the ground? Silvery stuff? That's unicorn blood. There's a unicorn in the bin, hurt badly somewhat. This is the second time a week. I found one day last week. We're trying to find the poor thing. We have to put it out of its misery. The crossbow we got." And whatever the unicorn finds us first, said Malfoy, unable to keep fear out of his voice. There's nothing that lives in that forest that'll hurt you. If you're with me or Fang, said Hagrid, and keep her to the path. Right now, we're gonna split into two parties, follow a trail in different directions. Different directions. There's blood all over the place. They must have been staggering around last night at least. I want Fang, said Malfoy, quickly looking at Fang's long teeth. All right, I warn you, he's a coward, said Hagrid. So me and Harry and Hermione will go with Draco, Neville, and Fang. Go the other. Now, if any of us finds the unicorn, we'll send up green sparks, right? Get your wands out and practice now. That's if it got any trouble. Send up red sparks. And we'll all come find you, so be careful. Let's go. The forest was black and silent. A silent way to get it into a fork in the end of the path. Harry and Hermione Hagrid took the left, while Malfoy, Neville, and Fang took the right. It was silence, their eyes on the ground. Every now and then a piece of moonlight came through the branches above, lit a spot of silver blue blood falling on the leaves. Harry saw that Hagrid sorry. Hagrid looked worried. Could a werewolf be killing the unicorns? Harry asked. Not fast enough, said Hagrid. Not easy to catch a unicorn. They're powerful magic creatures. I never knew one to be hurt before. I walked past a messy tree stump. Harry could hear running water. There must be a stream somewhere close by. There were still spots of unicorn blood here, and along a winding path. You all right, Hermione? Hagrid whispered. Don't worry. Couldn't be far. Badly hurt. We'll be able to. Get behind that tree! Hagrid seized immediately. Harry and Hermione hoisted them off the path and behind that towering goal. He pulled out an arrow and fitted it to his crossbow, raising it ready to fire. The three listened. Something was slithering over the dead leaves nearby. It sounded like a cloak trailing along the ground. Hagrid was squinting up in the dark path, but after the sound faded away. I knew it, he murmured. There's someone in here. That shouldn't be. A werewolf, Harry suggested. There wasn't no werewolf. It was no unicorn either, said Hagrid. Right, follow me, but be careful now. They walked more slowly, ears straining for the faintest sound. Suddenly, clearing ahead, something definitely moved. Who's there? Hagrid called. Show yourselves. I'm armed. And into the clearing came the man on a horse, two-waist man, a red-haired beard, but below the horse was a gleaming chestnut body with a long reddish tail. Hermione's jaws dropped. Oh, it's just you, Rowan, said Leaf. How are you? So, it's a man, half body, and then the rest is a horse's body. Hi, Rowan, said Hagrid in relief. How are you? He walked forward to the shock of the Senator's hand. Good evening to you, Hagrid, said Rowan. He had a deep, sorrowful voice. Were you going to shoot me? Can't be too careful in these forests, Rowan, said Hagrid, patting his crossbow. There's somewhat bad loose in this forest. This is Harry Potter and Hermione Granger, by the way, students up at school. And this is Ronan, you two. He's a Senator. We noticed, said Hermione faintly. Good evening, said Ronan. Students, are you? And do you learn much up at the school? A bit, said Hermione timidly. Bit. Well, that's something, Ronan said. He flung past his head and stared at the sky. Mars is too bright tonight. Yeah, said Hagrid, glancing up too. Listen, I'm glad we ran into you, Ronan, because there's unicorn been hurt. You seen anything? Ronan didn't answer immediately. He stared unblinkingly upward and sighed again. Always the innocent that are the first victims, he said. So it has been for ages past, so it has now? Yeah, said Hagrid. Have you seen anything, Ronan? Anything unusual? Mars is bright tonight, Ronan repeatedly, while Hagrid watched him impatiently. Unusually bright. Yeah, but I was meaning anything. Usually a bit near home, said So you haven't noticed anything? Yet again, Ronan took a while to answer, and he said, "The forest hides many secrets." And a movement in the trees behind Ronan made Hagrid raise his crossbow again, and it was only a second Centaur, black-haired, embodied. Then Rowan. "Hello, Bane," said Hagrid. "All right?" "Good evening, Hagrid. Hope you are well." "Enough, look. I've just been asking her, you seen anything odd here lately? A unicorn's been hurt. Would you know anything about it?" Bane walked over to Centaur and looked skyward. "Mars is bright tonight," he said simply. "We've heard," said Hagrid grumpily. "We've heard." "Well, if either of you see anything, let me know, won't you?" "We'll be off then." Harry and Hermione followed him, clearing, starting over the creatures. At Ronan and Bane until the trees blocked their view. "Never," said Hagrid, trying to get a straight answer at a Centaur. Ruddy stargazed. "Not interesting. Anything close to the moon." "Are there many of them here?" said Ash. Fair. Few. Keep themselves to themselves mostly, but they're good enough they'll turn up if I ever want to word. They're deep mind creatures, they know things. Just don't let on much." "Do you think that was a Centaur that we heard earlier?" said Harry. "Do you think that sounded like a curse to you?" "No, if you ask me, that was what's been killing the unicorns. Never heard anything like it before," Hagrid said. They walked through the dense, dark trees. Harry kept looking nervously over his shoulder. He had the nasty feeling they were being watched. He was very glad that Hagrid had his crossbow with them. They had just passed a bend in a path where Hermione grabbed Hagrid's arm. "Hagrid, look! Red sparks! The others are in trouble!" "You two wait here," Hagrid shouted. "Stay on the path. I'll come back for you." They heard him crashing away through the undergrowth, and they stood looking back at each other, very scared, until they couldn't hear anything but silence, rustling leaves around them. "You don't think they've been hurt, do you?" whispered Hermione. "I don't care, but Malfoy has something. Something's gotten evil. It's our fault they're here in the first place." Then minutes dragged by. Their ears seemed sharper than usual. Harry seemed to be picking up every sigh of the wind, every cracking twig. "What's going on? Where are the others?" At last, a great crunching noise announced Hagrid's return. Malfoy, Neville, and Fang were with him. Hagrid was fuming. Malfoy, it seemed, had sneaked up behind Neville and grabbed him as a joke, and Neville panicked and sent up sparks. "We'll be lucky to catch anything now, with the racket you two were making." "Right. We're changing groups. Neville, you stay with me and Hermione. Hermione, you go with Fang. And this idiot—" "I'm sorry," Hagrid added, and whispered to Harry, "but he'll have to be harder to frighten you, and we've got to get this done." So Harry set off into the heart of the forest with Malfoy and Fang. They walked nearly for half an hour, then deeper and deeper the forest they got, till the path became almost impossible to follow. Because the trees were so thick, Harry thought the blood seemed to be getting thicker. There were splashes of roots on the tree, though the poor creature had been thrashing around in pain close by. Harry could see a glittering head through the tangled branches of an ancient oak. "Look," he mumbled, holding out his arm to start Malfoy. Something was bright white and glimmering on the ground. They inched closer. It was a unicorn, all right. It was dead. Harry had never seen anything so beautiful and so sad. Its longer, slender neck was stuck, and odd ankles where it had been falling, and its mane was spread pearly white dark leaves, and Harry had taken one step toward it, with slithering on the ground that made him freeze. Bush on the edge were clearly quivered. Then out of the shadows a hooded figure came coiling across the ground and like some stalking beast. Harry and Malfoy, Fang had been the cloaked figure had reached the unicorn, over its head, wounded the animal's side, and began to drink its blood. "Arrgh!" Malfoy let out a terrible scream and bolted. So did Fang. The hooded figure raised its head and looked right at Harry. Unicorn blood was dribbling down its front. It got to its feet and came swiftly towards Harry. He couldn't move in fear. Then a pain he never felt like it before pierced his head, and it was as though his scar were on fire. Half blinded, half staggered, walking backward, he heard hooves behind him galloping, and something jumped Something jumped clean over Harry, charging at the figure. The pain in Harry's head was so bad he fell to his knees. It took a minute or two to pass. When it looked up at the figure, he had gone. A senator was saying, "It wasn't Ronan or Bane. This one looked younger, had white blonde hair, a polynomial body. Are you all right?" said the senator, pulling. "Yes, thank you." "What was that?" A senator didn't ask. He had astonishing blue eyes, like pearl sapphires. He looked carefully at Harry and his lingered scar that stood out over his forehead. "You are the Potter boy," he said. "You are the Potter boy?" "You had better get back to Hagrid. The forest is not safe at this time, especially for you. Can you ride? It'll be quicker this way." "My name is Firebeans," he added. He lowered onto his front legs so Hagrid could clamber onto his back. Sorry. There was suddenly a sound of more galloping from the other of the clearing. Ronan and Bane had come bursting through trees and flanks. "Firebeans!" Bane thundered. "What are you doing? You have a human on your back. Have you no shame? Are you a common mule? Do you realize who this is?" said Firebeans. "This is Potter, boy. The quicker he leaves the forest, the better." "What have you been telling him?" growled Bane. "Remember, Firebeans, we swore not to set ourselves against heavens. Have we not read what to come in the moments of the planets?" Ronan pawed at the ground nervously. "I'm sure Firebeans thought he'd be acting for the best," he said in his gloomy voice. Bane kicked his back legs in anger. "For the best? Is that what you want us to do with us? Senators are concerned with what has been foretold. It's not our business to run around like donkeys after stray humans in our forest." Firebeans suddenly reared to his legs in anger, and so that Harry to grab on the shoulders and stay. "Do you not see that unicorn?" Firebeans allowed Bane. "Do you not understand why it was killed? Or have the plants have not let you on our secret? I set myself. What is lurking for in this forest, Bane? Yes, with humans alongside me, I must." And Firebeans whisked around with Harry clutching. They plugged him off into the trees, leaving Ronan and Bane behind them. Harry didn't have a clue what was going on. "Why is Bane so angry?" he asked. "What is that thing you saved from me, anyway?" Firebeans slowed down to talk. He warned Harry to keep his head bowed in case of low-hanging branches, but did not answer Harry's question. They made their way through trees in silence for so long that Harry thought Firebeans didn't want to talk to him anymore. They were passing through particularly dense patches of trees. Now, however, when Firebeans suddenly stopped, "Harry Potter, do you know what unicorn blood is used for?" "No," said Harry. "So we've only used the horn and tail in potions. That is because a monstrous thing to slay on a unicorn," he said. "Firebeans, the only one who has nothing to lose and everything to keep gain would submit such crime. The blood of a unicorn will keep you alive even when you're an inch from dead. But this, at the terrible price you have slain something pure and defenseless to save yourself, and you will be but half-life, a cursed life, from the moment the blood touches your lips." Harry stared back at Firebeans' head, which had dappled silver in the moonlight. But who would be that desperate? He wondered aloud. "If you're going to be cursed forever, death's better, isn't it?" "It is, Firebeans, unless you need to stay alive long enough to drink something else. Something that will bring you back to full strength and power. Something that will mean you can never die. Mr. Potter, do you know what hidden in the school at this very moment? The Sorcerer's Stone, of course, the elixir of life. But I don't understand who. Can you think of anybody that has waited many years to return to a power who has clung to life, awaiting their chance?" It was a thought of an iron fist who had clenched suddenly tight around Harry's heart. Over the rustling of the trees, he seemed to hear once more what Hagrid had told him on the night they had met. Some say he had died Codswallowship, in my opinion. Don't know if he'd had enough human left in to die. "Do you mean," Harry croaked, "that was Harry, are you all right?" Hermione was running toward them in the dark path. Hagrid was puffing alongside. "I'm fine." Harry, hardly knowing what he was doing. "The unicorn's dead, Hagrid. It's in the clearing back there." "This is where I leave you," Firebeans murmured, as Hagrid hurried off to examine the unicorn. "You are safe now, Harry slid off his back. "Good luck, Mr. Potter," said Firebeans. "The plans have been read wrongly before you, now even centaurs. I hope this one is one of these times." He turned back and entered to the depths of the forest, leaving Harry shivered behind him. Ron had fallen asleep in the dark common room, waiting for them to return. He shouted something at Quidditch fowls. Harry roughly shook him awake. In a matter of seconds, he thought he was wide-eyed as Harry told Hermione what had happened in the forest. Harry couldn't sit down. He paced up and down in front of the fire. He was still shaking. Snape wants the stone for Voldemort, and Voldemort's waiting in the forest. And all this time, we thought Snape just wanted to get rich. "Stop saying the name," said Ron, terrified in whispers, as if he thought Voldemort could hear them. Harry wasn't listening. "Firebeans saved me, but he shouldn't have done so." Bane was furious. He was talking about interfering. Sorry. Comment for Harry, everyone, Dumbledore is the only one you know who is ever afraid of. With Dumbledore around, you know who won't touch you. Anyway, who says that centaurs are right? It sounds like future telling to me. Professor McGonagall says that's a very precise branch of magic. The sky had turned light before they stopped talking, and they went to bed exhausted, their throats sore, but the night's surprises weren't over. When Harry pulled back his sheets, he found an invisibility cloak. He found his invisibility cloak folded nearby underneath him. There's a note to it, just in case. That is the end of chapter 15, and I'll see you back for chapter 16. Goodbye.